The seafood here on King Island is absolutely magnificent, and it's not hard to see why. All around us there's this rich, alive, dark, cold water. Look at the crayfish here, for instance. Absolutely beautiful. But it's not just crays. There are crabs, massive crabs, oysters and eels. And to find out a little bit more, we'll talk to Donna.
Donna, King Island seafood, is this as fresh as it gets?
It sure is. And it comes in live every day, and tomorrow morning it's all been distributed.
Okay, so to make sure you get your
Yes.
bit of seafood, you've got to put that order
Yes,
in.
every time, because it comes in and by tomorrow morning it's all being distributed worldwide, live.
So, what's your favourite?
Crab.
The crab?
The big giant crabs.
Is that what makes the King Island crab special, that they're so big?
No, it's the taste.
The taste. And the crayfish, is that quite good too?
Yes. Yeah, and we have a lot of large lobster, which most people don't see. But again, they are quite prehistoric, and it's great to see really large lobster still being unloaded in the industry. And it's caught sustainably, which also is another element that it's becoming more and more important to the consumer.
So we can keep eating the crab and the
You come
crayfish
back more than
forever.
once.
Okay. The seafood, does it have any aphrodisiac qualities?
Probably not proven, but I'm sure it'll put you in the mood.
Today we're here at Seal Rocks. We're going to cook some Tasmanian rock lobster, provided to us from King Island Seafoods. I'm going to cook this with a King Island Dairy Surprise Bay cheddar sauce. A bit of a twist on an old dish. So the first thing we need to do today is cut the crayfish tail in half. First we'll put in a bit of butter, let that melt. Sit the crayfish tail into the pan. We'll put the lid on and let that simmer for around 10 minutes. While we're waiting for the crayfish to cook, I'm going to make the cheese sauce. The first thing we need to do is pour 150 ml of home oak Chardonnay into a pot, and we're going to reduce that down to around 30 ml. Once it's finished reducing, you can add 150 ml of chicken stock. Whilst that's coming to the boil, I'm going to grate around 40 grams of Surprise Bay cheddar. It's a beautiful cheddar, this one. In the bowl I've got some corn flour, which I'm going to coat the cheese with before I add it back to the warm stock. I'm going to just check this crayfish. That's looking pretty good, so I'm going to give that a squeeze of lemon juice just to help steam it. Then I'm going to remove the crayfish from the pot and remove the meat from the shell. Once that crayfish is all chopped into bite-sized pieces, we'll set that aside and get onto the cheese sauce. So now we'll put the stock onto the stove, bring that back to the boil. Once that comes to the boil, we're going to add our cheese, which is coated in corn flour. And I'm going to add this cheese mix into the stock and stir it in. Once that cheese is dissolved, you can stop stirring, otherwise you'll clump the cheese together. Now we can add a teaspoon of seeded mustard. Okay, now our sauce is in a good consistency. I'm just going to add a pinch of chopped parsley, just for a bit of colour. And I'm going to add the rest of the crayfish here back into the sauce and just give that a light stir around. Got a great coating here. Place that crayfish into the shell. Sprinkle of parsley on top. That looks great. So there you have a Tasmanian rock lobster served with a King Island Surprise Bay cheddar cheese sauce on King Island at Seal Rocks. Doesn't get much fresher than that.
Go on, try it.
We try?
Yeah. Look at the piece I've got compared to what you've got. Good.
That's good.
This lobster was alive 20 minutes ago. That's all right. Well, maybe half an hour. What do you think? It's good.
I'm concentrating on eating stuff.
Wild food in wild places.
With wild company.
Well, today we're here in Curry Harbour. Beautiful spot to cook some of these nice big King Island oysters. I'm going to do a King Island oyster with a black label blue triple cream cheese with crispy pancetta. So the first thing we need to do is get our pan nice and hot, add some olive oil, add some pancetta to that. You only want that on a medium heat, not too hot, don't want it to burn. Whilst that's crisping up, I'm going to put some blue cheese on top of the oysters, get them prepared. So just a couple of pieces on there. So I've got the oysters on the grill now, the cheese is just getting ready to melt. I'm going to place a pan over the top to create a bit of an oven. This will help the cheese melt before the oysters get too overcooked. Whilst I'm waiting for them to cook now, I'm going to crisp up this pancetta. Look at that, beautiful. The cheese is melted, the oysters are still slightly rare. Now I'm going to take them off and place them onto the rock salt. Now to finish them off, I'm just going to put on some of the crispy pancetta that we did earlier and sprinkle that on top of the oyster. This will give the dish a bit of texture and a little bit more salt content. It will go great with the oyster and the blue cheese. This will go down great with a glass of this home oak Aranay. So here we have it, King Island at its best.
I'm in heaven.
I finished mine.
You don't eat oysters, I know. She's pretending to eat the oyster. It's so lovely. They are, they're great.
King Island is known for its wild landscape and lush green pasture. But for any visitor, the first stop is here, the King Island Dairy. Bring a spare suitcase so you can take home as much of this award-winning cheese as possible.
Julie, I've met a few winemakers, and one of them told me to make a good wine, you need to start with good fruit. So is it a little bit the same with cheese?
Very much so. Like it's so important, and we're working with our farmers so closely that we get the best possible milk, because we have this beautiful climate. We've got the ocean around us where we get all the sea spray with the minerals and salts, and gives us this special beautiful milk. And I think we need this good milk to start making good cheese. And even if a farmer start changing the feeding habits, he generally let us know, so we know what's going to happen. So it is so important, because if you have a poor milk, you never get a good cheese.
So it all starts with those happy cows with good grass and good food.
That's it.
And what else do you do as a cheesemaker?
Like us, the head cheesemaker, I make sure the recipes are followed proper, and if there's any trends that the cheese, because the milk changes all through the year, that the milk is changing a bit, we have to react and change the recipe. So I talk to the cheesemaker and make sure these changes happen.
Have you got a favourite cheese?
Yeah, the one we see here, it's maybe right up the top, or a black label brie. It's another one I really enjoy.
And what cheese is this one?
That's the Endeavour Blue. So it's about a 7 kilo wheel, and it's sort of to a Gorgonzola style, to an Italian style. And you want to try it?
Is this almost mature?
Yeah, it's getting close.
I'd love to try it.
Yeah, we can have
I've
a look.
never done this before, wow.
So you can see it.
So, that's lovely. I love cheese. Do you still like cheese?
Oh, I do.
You're still passionate about cheese?
Very much so. It's still something intrigues me every morning when I get out of bed and just want to learn more and
Oh, that's wonderful.
keep doing it. Yeah.
That's wonderful. One last question. Does it have any aphrodisiac qualities?
Might have to talk to my wife, but I think it's definitely keep me healthy and fit. So
Well, that helps.
and I've done it now for 38 years, so must be something in it.
Give me another bit. Thank you.
As you can see, we've moved inside. This is our accommodation here, the kitchen. It's a great functional kitchen. We've got a lot of bench space, so I thought I'd come in here and cook some potato croquettes with smoked eel and King Island Dairy smoked cheddar. The emphasis being on the smoked flavour, of course. So first we need a bowl of mashed potato. I've added a small amount of flour just to help bind it. Into that I'm going to add some smoked eel from King Island Seafoods and some King Island Dairy smoked cheddar. This is a great, beautiful cheese, this one. Now I'm going to add an egg yolk. This will help bind the mix. Put the white aside, and then we're going to season this mix with some salt and pepper and combine that gently with your hands. Careful not to break the eel up too much. Okay, now I'm going to roll these into some small balls. It's good to have a bit of moisture on your hands. It'll stop the potato from sticking. Roll them into nice balls, whichever size you'd like. I like this size because the middle can get warm before the outside cooks too much. Then we're going to roll this in flour, egg mix, and then into some panko crumbs, which are a Japanese style breadcrumb. And I just prefer these because they're nice and crispy at the end. Now my oil's up to temperature. I'm going to put the croquettes into the oil gently, careful not to splash yourself. You should have a nice bubble, so you just want that nice light golden brown. Here's one I dropped in a minute ago. That looks about perfect. That's great. And just sit that on some absorbent paper to absorb any excess grease. And there you have it, potato croquettes with smoked eel and King Island Dairy smoked cheddar.
The eel's going to be a first for me. I've never had eel.
It's still lovely and warm.
They are nice. They're really good for this sort of weather too, where it's sort of cold when you want something quite filling and sort of comfort food. When you visit King Island, one of the first things you notice is the island is full of cows, all grazing in the beautiful rolling green paddocks. And if you're someone like me, you think that's because the island must get just the right amount of sun and rain. But it's really a little bit more complicated than that.
One person who can explain these complexities and tell us why this King Island grass is so good, third-generation King Island farmer Fred Perry.
The quality is the management of growing it. And the management of growing, predominantly most pastures on the island are managed in a rotation. And in the rotation aspect, you get a deeper root structure. And with the reliable rainfall that we have and the good growing seasons, we end up with a really good feed.
And all this grass turns these cattle into prime quality King Island beef.
I'm Dan Russell from Russell's Butchery, King Island. This is probably our most popular cut, the King Island Scotch fillet. It's really nice marble grass-fed beef. The meat sets up nice and firm. It's not sloppy, it's nice firm meat, easy to cut, easy to portion. It's probably the most popular cut that visitors on King Island look for. Everyone needs a piece to take home with them. It's in demand, but the farmers get a good price for it, so does the butcher.
One cut the visitors can't take home is this one. It's a real head turner.
G'day, today we're here at Netherby Downs, our accommodation on King Island. It's right on the west coast in the wild weather and winds. We're going to be cooking some King Island beef cheeks. These beef cheeks are beautiful and light in colour and very tender. You don't often feel beef cheeks like this, so I'm very excited to start cooking them. I'm going to cook them with a bit of home oak, Pinot Noir and some rosemary and thyme. Now we need to season our beef cheeks with a bit of salt and pepper. So the first thing we need to do after we've seasoned this beef is seal it off in a hot pan. So drop that into a hot pan. We're going to try and get a nice brown finish on each side. While I'm waiting for the beef cheeks to brown, I'm going to chop up an onion, one brown onion. Just dice that into rough dice, just like so, and place that in the poaching pot. Now the beef cheeks are looking pretty good. I'm going to sit them on top of the onion. Now I've got all the beef cheeks into the pan. I'm going to add some rosemary and thyme, a couple of big sprigs. Don't worry about breaking them up or chopping them up because you're going to strain the jus later. Now I've got the hot pan. I'm going to deglaze that with some home oak Pinot Noir. That gets all that flavour off the bottom. And then we're going to add that back to our poaching pot. We need to add some red wine into the pot and sort of half submerge the beef cheeks. And then fully submerge them, finish that off with some beef stock. Now the beef cheeks are submerged, place a few mushrooms on top. This will stop the beef cheeks from rising out of the liquid and you keep them all nice and moist for the whole time of their cooking. Now I'm going to put a lid on top of that, let that simmer for around 4 to 6 hours, check them after about 3. Okay, it's perfect red wine weather now. It's a bit windy and wet outside. We've moved into the kitchen. The beef cheeks are looking perfect. You can touch them and your fingers sink straight in beneath the surface. That means you know they're ready. So now I'm going to remove them from the pot and set them aside on a plate. Once we've done that, we can strain this liquid into a smaller pan so we can reduce it down for the jus, get it to a nice thick consistency. So with the potato, I'm going to cut it into a small square. Okay, now I'm going to pan fry the potatoes. So whilst we're waiting for this, I'm going to make a horseradish truffle cream out of this one. First thing we need to do is put the cream into a bowl. Into that, I'm going to put a pinch of sugar. That'll counteract the red wine vinegar. A pinch of pepper, a pinch of salt, about a teaspoon of horseradish, a dash of red wine vinegar, and then a small drop of truffle oil, the secret ingredient to this magic cream. Okay, so now I'm going to cut the beef cheek. That's all right. There you have it, beautiful tender King Island beef cheeks. Alrighty, the potatoes are perfect. They're a nice golden brown. Now to finish that off, the King Island pure cream with truffle oil and fresh horseradish. Look out, people. Like so. Sprinkle of fresh parsley. And I don't think there'd be a much better way to spend a cold night on King Island than with some King Island beef cheeks and some truffle horseradish cream. Amazing.
Audrey, we're at the King Island Bakehouse, home of the famous King Island pies.
Yes, indeed.
Now, how many have you got on your list?
21 varieties of pies, and we have vegetarian pasties and 2 sorts of sausage rolls and party pies. So quite a variety.
And you're famous?
Yes, they're famous worldwide. We have people from all over the world that have come here, like a lot of surfies, like Kelly Slater's been here twice, and he's come back in for the pie, and Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam, and he loves the pies, and he was in here singing about the pies. He was making up a song as he was going.
What makes the pies so good?
They're made with love. They're made all by hand here under this roof. And yeah, so we put a lot of thought into the ingredients and to make sure that they're a premium quality pie.
And local products?
All local products. We get the premium beef from our local butcher next door, and then the King Island cheese and King Island crayfish and King Island shark. So it's all King Island.
Give me a heads up, what's your favourite?
The curry pie is mine, the King Island beef with a bit of curry in it. Yeah.
Okay, is that the one you recommend?
Yes, but if a lot of tourists that come here do come here for the crayfish pie, or maybe the cheese pie, but with the beef, like people when they do come, they do want to try just the King Island beef without any other flavours. But I like the bit of curry, a bit of spice in life is lovely.
If you're planning a visit to King, this is Netherby Downs. The house is in a coastal bush setting with magnificent views and only 10 kilometres from Curry. Inside there's lots of polished Tasmanian oak and plenty of room to relax. You can call them on the numbers below.
So I've got this great big king crab here today. Well, it's actually a little king crab, but you can see the huge claws on it. It's still alive, so I've got it all taped down so it can't bite anyone. I'm going to turn this into an Asian stir fry with ginger shallots and oyster sauce. The first thing we need to do is the grizzly part and remove the legs from the crab. But I'm going to take this outside because it's a bit of a messy job, not one you want to do in Mum's kitchen. So I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so I've got the legs now. I'm going to cut these up into finger-sized pieces so you can bite through them. Just using the heel of your knife, smash through the joints, leave the tips off. Once you've got them into that size, you just want to break the shell up with the back of your knife. Okay, so I've got the crab, done the messy bit, all the legs are broken up, all the shell's cracked so the flavour can penetrate into the meat. So I'm just going to put this into the pan. It's just easier to coat them in corn flour in here. Light sprinkle over the top, just give that a light mix with your hands. Now we're going to add the crab coated in corn flour into the hot oil. Not for too long. Okay, so now I'm going to remove the crab. It's been about a minute or so. Okay, so my pan is smoking hot. Going to add a bit of the oil used for frying the crab in. Add that into the pan. Then we're going to put in some ginger, handful of shallots, and then handful of your crab. Toss that all together. Once it's all nicely combined, we're going to add a pinch of sugar. Just help sweeten up the meat of the crab. A bit of salt. A little bit of oyster sauce. And a dash of chicken stock. This helps make a nice sauce for the crab. Just like that. Then if you want to thicken that slightly, you can use just a pinch of corn flour again into the sauce, and that'll thicken that sauce, give your crab a nice coating consistency. Okay, so there's this King Island king crab with oyster sauce, ginger and shallots. Perfect, look at that. Come and eat this one. That's all right, get in there.
To break it?
Yeah, so here you go, look.
Oh.
You can have that bit if you like, Colette. Touch.
That's lovely. It's spicy, but a bit sweet, isn't it? It's lovely.
Most of King Island has sealed roads, good quality roads too. But if you want to do a bit of off-roading, go to the local rental company, which is King Island Car Rentals. Do what we did, hire one of these. It's a four-wheel drive Toyota. It's got a tub tray in the back. Means you've got a bit of storage space. And if you want to do a bit of off-road adventuring, you can.
Now, you see this landing plane? This is a much better way of arriving on King Island than the alternatives of swimming from Cape Otway or kayaking from Stanley. Seriously, give Sharp a call. For details on what to see and do on King Island, call King Island Tourism on 1800 645 014.
Aussie Holiday. Aussie Holiday.
Want to be part of the show? Follow us on Twitter, find us on Facebook, or just email airtracks@bigpond.com.